All right, guys, welcome in. It is now a Thursday, November the 14th, 2019. It's another edition of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. Everything you need to know about college basketball, recapped, a look ahead, everything to be profitable with our good friend Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. That's where you can get him, and I would definitely get there because the amount of information being plugged on his Twitter page is crazy, guys. It's the kind of stuff that makes the difference between having a losing card and a winning card. And Ralph will dive into what happened last night. It was a loaded card. You and I had a lot of fun breaking down some of those games yesterday. It was interesting, again, with a few surprises last night.
It was, and we've seen another couple big upsets, and we talked about it. This segment is here for a reason. We want you to get to know players that are very good in case they get injured. We want you to know teams that are covering or getting blown out because you may have to adjust them. It's early in the year. Vegas is learning how to do this as well. And again, knowing which teams are capable of pulling the upsets and which ones aren't. Joe, give us a couple of the top stat lines of the night from some of the players that stood out.
Let's talk about some of these things. How about Brad Davison of Wisconsin, 24 points, 4 steals, 3 boards, 2 assists. Wisconsin, again, just seems to always regroup, Ralph. They just always seem to have guys that can score from anywhere. And how about the freshman Ramsey from Texas Tech, 25 points, 5 boards, 2 steals, 2 assists, 1 block. I thought they lost everybody last year. I thought everyone left Texas Tech. Another great job there, of course, with what they're doing here with Chris Beard and company. And how about Jason Preston, Ohio, dropping 27 points, 14 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block, Ralph. Very good game by all of those teams, by the way.
Absolutely. 2 more I want to talk about. Sean D. Brown, 23 points, 11 rebounds for Wake Forest. Michael Christmas, James Madison, 19 points, 15 rebounds. And leading scorer of the night last night was Antonio Green from Middle Tennessee. They did play Mars Hill, so they played a lower division team, but still put up 31 points and 4 rebounds.
Yep, it was quite the impressive trip there by a few. In fact, we had some covers last night too, did we not, Ralph? We had some monster covers actually. We had 35.5, I believe, IUPUI plus 16.5 with 70-53 versus South Florida. Boy, Is Charlie Strong coaching South Florida too, basketball?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. 27.5, Bryant opened up at 2.5. That was 69-44 against St. Peter's. And maybe the one game that we shouldn't be surprised, it was only it was down to a pick-em. How about the separation of 25 points between Ohio State and Villanova? Ralph, that game was over before it started. They just never looked back. They kind of boat raced them early on in that game.
They did. They certainly did. And, we talked about Villanova being a very young team. We talked about Villanova missing one of their 5-star recruits. So they're a team that's going to learn from it and get better. Don't throw them in the dumpster from this. It's very difficult playing that first road game against a team like Ohio State. And we also talked about yesterday, Villanova hadn't been tested. They only played 1 game, wherein as Ohio State was in a battle against Cincinnati, was down 7 at the half, and had to come back and play. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to be said when that team has that first tough win and they learn how to do it. Yep. And, we see some big covers early in the year, Joe. I think we see even more huge covers on overs or unders because Vegas doesn't need to go as high as they sometimes should. They don't need to go as low as they sometimes should because they're still getting equal money on these teams. But Boston College and High Point went under by 43 points. You rarely see a total of 135 and you go under by 43.5 points. Mm-hmm. The score was 59-33. Hey, the angle of the day yesterday was Fordham under. Mm-hmm. They went under by 29 points. They beat Fairleigh Dickinson with a total of 132. And Ball State, Illinois, Chicago. Ball State is a team to be reckoned with. They were down against Evansville. I played against them last night and lost. They made a huge comeback against Evansville by playing defense. They played even more defense last night against Illinois, Chicago. That went under by 28.5 points. 67 to 48, a total of 143.5.
Wow.
And a couple crazy overs. We talked about sometimes they can't go low enough. Well, Tennessee Martin had a total of 151.5 yesterday. Guess what? They crushed it by 37.5 playing Western Illinois, 98 to 91.
Wow.
And Wake Forest and NC Asheville had a total of 145. That went over by 32 points, a final score of 98 to 79.
Wow.
Couple big upsets as well, Joe. You know, let's go ahead and mention those big upsets from yesterday. On the day, there were 8 upsets.
Wow.
And again, I'm talking about even being a 1.5 point dog. So let's talk about those that were over 5 points.
Okay.
There were 4 of those yesterday. IUPUI knocks off South Florida, just like we said.
Right.
16.5 point dog, 70 to 53.
Crazy.
St. Joe's impressed me knocking off UConn yesterday. They were a 13.5 point dog. They win that game 96 to 87. I was on St. Joe's against Old Dominion. I gave out the over because St. Joe's is truly pressing the tempo. Even when they played Old Dominion, a slow team, that game went over.
Yep.
Now you saw exactly what they did yesterday against an upper team.
Yep. You got Northwestern Providence, right? I mean, that was another one that was a bit surprising, 72 to 63. What was the line? 9 in that one?
Yep. And Lafayette knocking off Princeton. You know, Princeton's Princeton. Lafayette, the little brother, getting 6 points. They win that game 72 to 65. The other upsets, again, small upsets. Ohio, Cal State Fullerton, Bryant, and Grambling gets a rare win.
Yeah, can you believe that? Grambling in there. Got to go with the Gales at Iona, huh? Come on, work it out, damn it. What's wrong with you people? We love our Gales. We know a lot of folks that watch the show, especially over at Sports Grid, that graduated Iona. They're diehards, Ralph. One way or another, they root for the Iona Gales. I don't know why. I guess somebody's got to. You might as well go to the school and root for them. That's for sure. We got some movement here on the card too, Ralph. Today it's a short card. I believe we got 18 games here going on tonight, and besides a couple of the marquee matchups we will get to, how about this one, Ralph? How about St. Mary's and Long Beach State? Seems to be getting quite a bit of action going here. Opened up at the total at 138.5. It's already been bet down to 135.5. Long Beach State seems to be getting lesser amount of tickets, 44%, but they're getting significant portion of the money. 60% of the money is coming in. I thought Long Beach State was one of the worst teams and certainly one of the slowest teams in the country. St. Mary's certainly getting the tickets at 56%, only getting right around 40% of the money. The line opened up at minus 21 for St. Mary's. This might have something to do with it. It's been bet down to 18.5 right now, Ralph, in some places. I didn't even think that was a close matchup, St. Mary's alone, but a lot of people taking the points there.
Well, you know, I think you misspoke there. Long Beach State has actually gone up tempo the last couple years.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
They were number 30 last year. They were 69. St. Mary's by far one of the slowest. You know, Long Beach State started off, they gave UCLA all they can handle. Then they beat San Diego. Yep. They did get beat against Stanford on the road. So this St. Mary's game, you know, we were impressed that they beat Wisconsin in overtime. But then what we saw is they struggled against Winthrop at home, losing. So they lost. They were one of the biggest upsets we talked a few days ago here, losing to Winthrop at home 61 to 59. But anytime you have a team that's that slow in pace, number 346 so far this year. Last year, they were 348 out of the 353 teams. So the 5th slowest team. If your team is only going to score in the 60s or 70s and you're laying almost 3 touchdowns, you always have to look at the dog. Yeah, talk to me about VMI and Arkansas State here, Ralph. VMI not doing very well here, but for some reason they seem to be getting a significant portion of the money. I don't know why, but they are. They're getting 7 points here. The total is the thing that's come down here the most, Ralph, or gone up, rather. Opened up at 141. I'm seeing 145, 145 and a half here across the board, and a lot of folks seem to be buying into the over in this matchup, VMI and Arkansas State. Is this a tempo situation? Is that why the over's going crazy? It's not. I mean, it's two bad defenses. There's no question about that. But they're not that fast tempo. I liked Arkansas State tonight. I look to use them. This is the first day of a tournament that Arkansas State is hosting. When Arkansas State has hosted this tournament in this venue, they've won 12 straight. And when you are, this isn't an impressive tournament. When you look at the teams involved, you have Arkansas State. And then you have VMI, and on the other side is UC Davis and Idaho. So all teams where you expect to win the tournament. And when you have a home team, I do like those home teams that bring in weaker teams to play the tournament, especially in the first game.
Right.
I just couldn't pull the trigger because Arkansas State's defense has been bad. Granted, they played Mississippi, and, you're playing an SEC team on the road, your defense is going to be bad. So just not enough for me. It's one of those areas where I'm not going to try to guess that they're going to be improved.
Right.
I have to wait to see that they're going to be improved and use it.
One of the biggest spread moves here, Ralph, has to do with the MAC meeting the Ivy League here. And how about it? Siena taking on Harvard. We talked about Harvard here in the first show, in fact, and weren't quite sure what we were going to get. Opened up with Harvard as a 12.5-point favorite. It's already been bet down to 9, Ralph, with 76% of the bets, 93% of the money coming in on Siena in this one here. Overvalued Harvard still? Are they still being overvalued, you think?
Oh, they're going to be there in the end, no question. A couple guys banged up, and that's a big deal. And Siena, again, another team. Were they supposed to beat American at home game 1? Yes, but they beat him by 16.
Yep.
Losing to 18 at Xavier, I have no issues with that. And then a really impressive game, taking care of Bonaventure at home by 13. So this is a Siena team, that what do we have? Well, we know at home they played well, beating American and Bonaventure. But now going on the road, they're going to play Ivy teams back-to-back. They're going to play Harvard and then Yale next Wednesday.
Yep, should be very interesting. And those are your line movements going on here, Ralph. I know you got some TNA for the games here tonight. What's going on?
We're just talking, again, a light card today. I'm just going to mention some trends and angles. And I do want you to make sure you pay attention to best bets, because the best angle of the day is part of my best bet. But Vanderbilt's gone 0-11 over-under as a dog. So whenever the Commodores are in that spot, they've tended to slow it down. San Jose State's gone 1-10 ATS as an away dog. Now, let's go ahead and give a teaching moment here, Joe. This is where, when you look at angles early in the season, you have to take them with a grain of salt. I can tell you San Jose State is 1-10 against the spread as an away dog, and someone may go bet that. You never want to bet a trend, a play on a single trend. You want it just to be part of the reason. Why? Well, because they went 0-10 their last 10 games last year. They were an 18-point dog against Hofstra, and they won that game outright. So 1-10 could be very misleading, because last year's team was 0-10. This year's team is 1-0. We'll take it forward and see, was the upset win against Hofstra an anomaly and they're going to struggle on the road again? Or is this team just very much improved? Final one, Michigan State, 6-14 over-under as an away favorite. We're going to talk about that more in our marquee matchup, but I am not going to want Michigan State under the total if Powell is out for Seton Hall.
Oh, interesting. Now, Ralph, with this short card on the table here tonight, you got a dog that's barking here. You got somebody that you've looked at that maybe stands out.
Well, I'm going to toss it to you for a minute, Joe, and I'm going to decide on my last two if you've got one that you like.
I do. You know what it is? I looked at this game early on, and then I kind of like Penn State. I like Penn State in this matchup here, taking on our good friend there. I can't believe it, right? Patrick, is it Patrick Ewing there? Isn't Patrick Ewing now at Georgetown? Is that
Yep.
It's Patrick Ewing knows a thing about a big man or two here. But I think it's only a small spread, Ralph. It's the Nittany Lions. They opened up Penn State getting 2 points. It's actually some of the money's going their way. It's up to +1 right now. Obviously, they haven't faced a offense that's going to be as good as what Georgetown is, but I do think there's some carryover here. They've done some really good things so far against some weaker teams, Penn State, but they're not forcing difficult shots. They're being very opportunistic with their shots here. Turnovers, I think, have been a big issue for Georgetown. I think that's a recipe for disaster against this Penn State team. And again, Central Arkansas almost made them pay for it as well. I like it, man. I think the Nittany Lions, it's a small enough number. I think Penn State's got an opportunity to pull the upset here as a money line dog here tonight, Ralph.
I am looking at the card, and I hate to say that the only team I like as a dog is San Diego, because they're only 1.5 or 2. So, yeah, again, this is a very light card, and we tried to give you the mainline games and not the added games if we can. Right. But, with a couple double-digit favorites and me liking Arkansas State and a couple of the other favorites, I'm going to take a very light dog on San Diego and the Toros, and they should get the win tonight in Weber State.
Yeah, see, so you got some there are some interesting ones. There are some marquee matchups here, Ralph, even on the short card tonight. And I mentioned one of them, of course, Penn State at Georgetown, but there's another big one, too, which I think is going to be very interesting to watch here from how this season started for this team.
I missed that question, Joe. I apologize.
Well, the other marquee matchup, you've got Michigan State at Seton Hall, and I'm going to be St. Bonaventure aside here, I'm going to be interested to see tragedy with Michigan State, of course, with Cassius Winston's brother. It's been a rough start to the Michigan State year. Yeah, it has.
But, Tom Izzo's one that, the players' side issues aside, the Kentucky loss, that doesn't affect Izzo like it does some teams. You are still an elite team. You are still going to be a 1 or a 2 seed. You still are likely going to win the Big Ten. So you learn from playing a team like Kentucky. This, I think, is another test for him, is going to play Seton Hall. I mean, Seton Hall, to me, is very capable of being an Elite 8 team. I think they're the best team in the Big East, but the issue, as I said, is, Miles Powell got hurt the first half against Stony Brook. When he went out, Stony Brook was able to move that ball. Yep. If it's Powell against Winston, it's a great matchup. Now, when he got hurt, the first reports were Kevin Willard said this looks to be an extended injury. Well, it wasn't as bad as they thought. He was in the shoot-around Tuesday. He was in the shoot-around Wednesday. He said, it was not good. It was not horrible. It was okay. It will be a game-time decision. This line is at, 5.5 or 6?
Yep.
I will say this. If you are watching the game and you see Powell is not dressed and the line is not climbed, I would take that opportunity to jump on Michigan State immediately.
I'll tell you this. Yeah, the total is also shrunk, 144 to 140 now, Ralph.
Well, they need Paul's defense.
Yeah,
there is absolutely no question. Yep. Seton Hall is an elite defensive team with Powell, who was the Big East Player of the Year last year, could have gone to the NBA, came back. He's just an entirely different dynamic with that team, with and without him. There's a handful of guys. Michigan State's got enough talent. If you lose Winston for a couple games, you can survive. If they lose Powell for a couple games, they're a play against in my book.
Yeah, it is also, what a shocker here, Ralph. It is the highest handled game thus far. Most bets coming in on that Michigan State Seton Hall game. And, of course, number 2 is the game that I had mentioned where I'm backing the dog here, Ralph. Penn State taking on Georgetown. Another one of these situations where total is hovering around that 150 number. It's been going back and forth, 149, 150. But what do you think about the Hoyers and Ewing and company here? Do you think Penn State's got a shot in this one? It's only a point.
Oh, I think they certainly do have a shot. And you're looking at, this now is an age of point guards and 3-point shots. And, it's rare to see a game like this where we have We have multiple big men, and here we have two centers who could be very well the best players on the team.
Yes. Is it Yurtseven? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Yurtseven and Mike Watkins. And Mike Watkins not get the love, but he really is their rim protector. Watkins tends to get in foul trouble. So, it's another game. I know you said you like Penn State, but if one of those bigs gets in foul trouble with two quick fouls, it'll change the way those teams have to play. So, Penn State, couple of easy home games, haven't been tested with Maryland, Eastern Shore, and Wagner. And then they play Buck. They have a very weak non-conference schedule. Pat Chambers just said, listen, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to play Mississippi on a neutral, and Wake Forest is coming here. And besides that, we're going to cupcake it, except for this Gavitt tournament with the Big Ten against the Big East. So this is really his only road test. And, we'll see what we learn from it. But, Georgetown, again, Central Arkansas and Mount St. Mary's aren't competition either, but Georgetown's the home team. So to me, that's what you're looking at. If a big gets in foul trouble, keep an eye and perhaps a live bet situation.
Yeah, will Ewing have to, even the pace of play too, will he have to go to a smaller lineup at some point, kind of take the bigs out of there? It was the turnovers. It was an issue that was the thing that did it for me. It was an issue with LSU in the first game. Wade said it last night. I mean, what, they have 26 turnovers? I mean, kind of the same situation here with Hoyas. They just have not been able to protect the ball. I think that might come back and haunt them here a little bit tonight in this Penn State matchup. But you're right. Ewing knows a thing about big men or two. I'm sure he's going to figure it out, good old Patrick. All right, Ralph, what do you got? Do you have I know was there a situational spot, a revenge sandwich, something along those lines you had going on tonight, or do you have a best bet?
Yeah, we sort of talked about it, and it was the situation with Arkansas State being at home in their own tournament, bringing in 4 teams in a venue that they're 12-0 at. They're off the loss against Mississippi. That doesn't concern me. You're playing a VMI team that is 0-3, but they're off back-to-back close losses. So the reason it didn't make my card, the reason I didn't bet it, it's still worth a look if you want to make a fun bet for the situation. But VMI may be 0-3, and they may not be playing any defense, and their offense numbers may be horrendous. But I'll tell you what, they played Marist. They only lost by 2. They played Presbyterian. They lost that game in overtime. And even the East Carolina game, they lost by 12. So they've been competitive. But there's times where if you're competitive for too many games in a row and you don't win any of them, it turns into a negative factor. Yep. If you finally get a win, then you could take something positive out of those negatives and say, well, look, we kept trying hard and we're going to play well. But the situation, as I said, I like hosts to these small 4-team tournaments. They have a lot of emphasis on them. They have a lot of emphasis on the first games. And it's something you want to pay attention to, minutes played, because they're going to play consecutive days. So box score study tonight. How many minutes each team played? Did some teams shoot an anomaly? And obviously Arkansas State, very familiar with the setting, while the other 3 aren't. Yeah,
it's and those are always good things to remember, guys. I mean, and it's not end-all, be-all, but those types of situations are going to come up each and every one of these shows, and it's certainly worth making a note about when you're looking at these games, because it could be the difference between what you're going, Ralph, this is a play, this is something, puts me over the edge, or, what, even better, it might go, wow, I was thinking the other way, maybe it's not worth it now. Everything in proportion, don't just rely on one of these types of trends in these situations, Ralph, to be the end-all, be-all.
Yeah. Again, it's a balance. Pretend like you have a balance scale. And this team is good as a home favorite. This team is bad as an away dog. This team has guards matchups. This team plays poor defense. This team's home road dichotomy is great. This team's plays very poor on the road. So you're taking all those situations. You're looking at what the matchups are. You're looking at what the strength of schedule's been. You're looking at their plus points per game and their plus rebounds per game, and then you're making a decision. So people follow my timeline and they think I'm a technical handicapper. Nowhere near being a technical handicapper, but I do look up so many situations that help me handicap that I want to learn from those situations, and then I share them with people.
Yep, I love this too here, Ralph. Best bets, favorite part of the show. And, of course, guys, want to remind you, if you haven't done so, make sure you head over to wagertalk.com. All of Ralph's packages going to be there, available for you all week long. Great information there, of course, not only in college hoops, obviously, but, of course, NFL, college football, getting you ready to make it a profitable weekend. And, Ralph, do you have a best bet here tonight, something you're looking at?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. It didn't work out yesterday on my best bet, but I'm going to say this again. I have this up at Wager Talk. I only have one play today, and 99% of the time, I use the mainline games. Well, I was going to pass today, so I started looking at some of the extra games, and this game is in the extra game category. It's number 307-384, and it's Winthrop and East Tennessee State over 148. Now, I'm going to give you a stat or an angle, and I don't want you to say, wow, that's the reason he used the play.
Exactly.
That's part of the reason I looked at the play. But East Tennessee State, how's this for a trend, Joe? 19-1 over-under as a home favorite.
Wow.
In their last 20 games, so we're going back 2 seasons, they've only gone under once when they're a home favorite. And then I look at the situation, and I look at Winthrop, and you may say, well, Winthrop only scored 67 when they played Hartford and only scored 61 against St. Mary's and only scored 74 against Fresno. Well, we already talked about St. Mary's pace, number 346. Fresno's 246. Hartford is 296. So you have a Winthrop team that, if you look at it, averaged 70 points per game against 3 tempos, 264, 296, 346, that average over 300 as far as tempo's concerned out of 353 teams. East Tennessee State, again, a solid team. Steve Forbes, still the head coach. And the interesting thing is, and I think part of the reason this hasn't caught on, East Tennessee State is just efficient. They move the ball. They pass the ball. They don't turn the ball over. They're number 1 in offensive rebounding this year. They've always been they were number 5 in offensive rebounding last year. So when you look at their tempo was in the high 180s or something like that last year. It's like 150 this year, just off the top of my head. So it's not like FIU where they're racing down. But damn, when they come down there, they just score, and they score very well. So a sneaky 19-1 over-under, where a lot of people tend to look at tempo and then make a bet on the team because of tempo. Well, when you have this efficient of an offense and a team is playing in Johnson City, Tennessee, and Steve Forbes is still the coach, I like the over.
Love this. All right, guys, get it down there. One of the plays I'm looking at, I think there's 2 on the card, Ralph, and I think injuries play a role in both of them. We talked about Seton Hall and whether or not Powell was going to be on the court here tonight. I definitely think that's going to affect the total, and it's starting to inch down a little bit. So something tells me he can't go. They can't replace what's going on there, guys. They can't replace his scoring. It's obvious. I do think it's been a tough. Guys, listen, Cassius Winston's brother died. He almost didn't even flinch there against Bonaventure. Or at some point, this has got to be weighing down not only on him, on this team. It has been a rough start to the year. Does it happen tonight? I don't know. I just don't think this is going to be as high scoring as maybe some people have, and especially if he's not going to be on the court there for Seton Hall. So I'm looking at the under in that game. And keep an eye, guys, on the Siena-Harvard game, because don't forget, Siena's the one that took down Harvard before they righted the ship there last year. Siena had added to their misery a little bit, and those two, Ralph, you had mentioned it, a couple of guys missing there on Harvard, and they also happen to be pretty important guys in there. Aiken is one of the guys, their leading scorer, averaging 22 a game. He don't look like he's going. I'm going to go under the assumption he's not. I'm also going to follow the market here, Ralph, because it appears a lot of people don't think he's going to be there. It's moved from getting 12.5 to getting 9.5. So maybe Siena might be the play. Up-tempo, kind of pushing the ball, converting on threes. I think Siena's got a shot here to cover this game.
Can't argue with that play at all. We often talk about teams and people. A team like Harvard, who's a potential top 25 team, and people are very high on them, and knows that they're going to be the top team in the Ivy.
Yep.
They work through their issues too when they have injuries, and it changes the rotation. And
Yep.
Yes, they were a 19-team win last year, and they beat Georgetown in the NIT. But again, you're going through those early seed changes.
Yep, and why not, man? Push the pace a little bit there for Siena, convert some threes, use the backcourt, boom. Next thing you know, they may not win, but hell, I'll give you the 9. Give me the 9.5 points. I'm good there. All right, Ralph, it is another card here tonight, another 18 games, college hoops. And again, don't forget, guys, make sure you head over to wagertalk.com. Check out Ralph's page at the Cal Sports page, at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. Make sure you like these videos, too. Hit them up in the corner there. Thumbs up, hit the bell. It'll notify you every time we load one up here. Should be good to go about 3 o'clock every Monday through Friday. You guys will be ready to go, getting ready for the card here in college hoops. And Ralph, pleasure, brother. Enjoy the night. Enjoy the games. Good luck. We'll do this again tomorrow here at Wager Talk TV.
Nice card tomorrow for Friday. We'll talk to you then, Joe. Thanks, bud.
Big time. You got it, guys. Good luck. It's the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show here, brought to you by WagerTalk.com.